right, welcome back. As you can see, I have reprimed the helmet. The second priming went much smoother than the first priming. I rebuilt that paint gun, so it sprayed really nice and even and did a great job. I also used a lot less primer than the first time. I used a lot less primer as opposed to the first prime, which was covering up sanding, layer lines and bodywork and all that stuff. The second priming was really just to get everything all one uniform color again. So here it is. We're now pretty much ready for paint. I'm going to base this in this is Rust-Oleum 2x primer metallic silver. I like this stuff. It doesn't give you the greatest like metallic finish, but it gives you a decent aluminum finish and it dries fast. You can tape and paint over this stuff, and I've never actually had this stuff react to other paints. It works really well for me, and this is what I'd primarily always use as my base silver, because we're going to be doing chip away paint work and stuff like that on this helmet to kind of give it a really cool paint job. And to do that, I need to start with this silver base. So I'm going to go set up over in the back of the shop and get everything ready to paint. I've got everything clean and wiped down, degreased, so I know this is all ready to go. So I got this ready, I got all the pieces on the side ready, so here we go. Now we got the aluminum base or the metal base painted, and it is dry now, so we can mask onto it. First off, I want to mask the ears. I'm going to leave the ears silver for now. We may change that later on depending on how this paint job goes, and I might change my mind. But at this point, we're going to mask those off. So I'm going to go ahead and start taping those off. All right, there we go. I got the ears all taped off, which is perfect. Now, this here is liquid latex. This is, I think, Monster Latex is what it's called. This is what I like to use it as a liquid mask to mask off areas that I want to show, damage. When I do this, going through and doing this technique, each layer will create a depth and a lot more realism to your helmet or your paint job. If you think about like an old piece of metal railing that's been painted over a long period of time, it's been painted many different colors, and as you look at it, you can see where the paint has been chipped away, and you can see different layers all the way down to the bare metal. So that's kind of the look, and this is exactly how the Boba Fett helmet's paint job is actually done. It's done in layers using some sort of probably a latex mask, very similar to this. So I like to hit edges first. Places where you're going to get damaged. Things are going to happen. And then down in some recesses where maybe the paint's just not going to stick as well. I'm kind of being as random as possible also. I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm just kind of thinking of how things might get damaged or worn over time when I'm doing this. Now I'll let this dry, and once it's dried, it'll be safe to paint over top of. If you paint over this while it's still wet like that, the latex will not dry. So we're going to let this dry, and then we're going to put on what I like to call a primer coat. This is just going to be simulating the color of primer. Now we got our simulated primer coat down. I didn't put it on very heavy. The reason why I didn't put it on very heavy is I wanted to dry fast, and light covering is going to be just perfect for this. So now I'm going to apply my second layer of latex for masking. And what I'm going to do is, I added a lot of scratches to the dome. So first thing I'm going to do is just hit those areas. I'm just going to hit them fairly roughly, not really caring. I just want, when it's all done, there's going to be a dimension of paint. Well, I had a lot of scratches on this side. So I'm just taking and dragging the latex across the surface of the helmet, kind of creating a scratch. All right. Let's go around. I had a few scratches here. Now on the front where I just did chips, I'm gonna dab a little bit around where my chips were also. Not too much, not too crazy, and I'm not really being all that particularly careful either. I'm just kind of dabbing them around, basically hitting those marks and then covering them completely up. And I'm actually gonna add some new ones. That should be enough. Now we'll set this out to dry and then put on the next coat. Next coat is actually going to be one of my favorites. It's just OD green. I love it, and to be honest, this paint dries super fast. So this will be the next coat. We're going to coat the whole thing in OD green. All right, got all the green done. I had a little bit of a problem. It wrinkled. The green started to wrinkle with the primer coat underneath, and to be honest, whenever you do multicolor paint jobs, you should actually take your paints, spray one layer, and then come back with the other paint and spray over top of it. These are both Rust-Oleums, or both ×2. So what really actually happens when you get a wrinkle or a lifting is, what is happening is you are re-wetting the paint underneath with the new paint, and that's kind of what actually happens. The more extreme the wrinkles up, and this is more of a crackle deal, and I think it kind of looks cool, and I'm just going to leave it as the aesthetic of the helmet instead of repainting and change. I'm going to leave it the way it is. But yeah, always test to make sure your paints will work well together. Also, probably the main reason why this happened to me tonight or today was because I'm pretty much painting this all in one sitting. So there wasn't enough dry time. Even though it was dry to the touch, it still wasn't 100% dry, and it was soft enough to reabsorb this paint and then cause that crackling and wrinkling effect. But now we're on to I'm going to mask off the cheek areas and add some paint there. And I like to use this blue fine line tape. This stuff is awesome. It really helps to keep your paints from leaching up under like it does with your standard masking tapes. It does a great job at making nice, fine, sharp lines. So I'm going to mask off the mandibles, and then I'm going to use these little masking paper rolls. These are real handy. These are kind of used in the body shop. Comes with tape already on it and masking paper. These things are cool. So I'm going to use these to mask the areas I don't want paint to get on, and we're going to get to masking now. All right, the black's all dry, so we can now demask or remove the masking paper. Now, at this point, we're going to start pulling off some of the latex masking also. As we're pulling this tape off, as you can see, a lot of the latex is also going to be coming off, which is totally fine. Pretty much done up here in the front. Okay, so I think one more thing I want to do is, well, there's a little bit more I want to do. I want to add maybe some color back here, but I also want to add some kill marks along one side of the helmet. I'm going to put them right here on this side, on the left side. There's already a lot of weathering there, but it should be fine. Just going to go ahead and run myself a little tape border all the way around to about here in the back. Break it in the front somewhere. Right there. There we go. Just like that. Now I'm going to run another line above it, about an inch above it. Try to stay fairly consistent. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Most of these kill marks are actually going to be right through that area where I put a lot of scratches, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how this turns out. There we go. There's all the kill marks. Look that pretty good. And I think maybe I'm gonna, the same time I'm doing the kill marks, I'm gonna paint the back area of the helmet. Maybe we'll just paint this either red or maybe yellow. So we'll just see what I got on the shelf. When masking, you should always have a razor blade or a scalpel around to cut your edges, especially when you're getting into a tight spot like I am right here. Everything else has been pretty easy, but this is a little bit tighter than I wanted. We got our kill marks masked off, got the key in the back mask off, so let's set this guy up for paint. Looks like it's gonna be red. I got red ready to go. We got it all painted, it's dry, so let's once again unmask all this. Once again, we're going to be pulling a lot of that latex weathering off also. Here we go, we got a whole set of kill marks there. I'm going to go ahead and unmask everything. Get this ready to do our next batch of weathering and cleaning up, or removing of the latex weathering. Roll your fingers over it and rub it right off, or roll it right off. Look at that. Look at how that's starting to look. Looks pretty cool. All right, I'm going to get to cleaning this off. All right. Well, as you can see, I've already done all the washes on the helmet. Apparently, we had a microphone failure. We're actually trying out a brand new set of microphones right now. The old microphones are about 3 or 4 years old. We've been using them on our podcast forever, and they're getting to the end of their reliable life. They work, but they're not reliable anymore. What you're about to see is all the footage I filmed of me doing the washes on the helmet, but I'm going to quickly explain to you what I did do so you can just take this and follow along with what's going on. Number one, I started out with black, and I added a bunch of water and diluted it and did an overall wash of the entire helmet, just designed to bring down the red. It was, the red was very shiny or very bright, brought down all the colors. You can see, obviously, the helmet is much darker than it used to be. Once that was done, I wiped it all down with my trusty weathering towel. Then I used some black paint, non-diluted, with an acid brush and hit like deep crevices and along the edge lines and all over the silver parts. And I went back with a dabbing motion and dabbed all that paint. And once it started to somewhat dry, I would go back over it and then rub and buff it back off as hard as I could. I did that with the black, and then I came back in with burnt umber and did that again on all the silver and a few places to give little dirt blotches and whatnot, and still in the same technique of blotting it down. The technique of blotting it down takes away, you can brush stroke, but then you can go back over and then it'll create a pattern that's not brush strokes. Also, when you use this, use a towel or don't use paper towel. Most paper towels have a texture in them, and you'll actually be stamping that texture into what you're doing, and you'll actually be able to find and see that texture. And then I would go back over and then rub and clean a lot of it off, and what stayed behind stayed behind. Finally, I went over it with some of this terrain beige, kind of as an overall dirt coat. I reduced it with water using the same brush I started with, this acid brush. I just would hit spots and then dab it in and then let it dry somewhat and then kind of rub it off. And it left kind of like your car's been running down a dirty, dusty road. It kind of leaves that kind of dirt on the surface. So that's what I did, and you can see in these pieces I did pretty much the same thing right along with the rest of the helmet. I was doing the rangefinder and this ear cap. So that's what you'll see right now. These paints are acrylic paints. I buy these at Walmart. They're 59 cents a piece. They're cheap. They do a good job. Very affordable, cheap, easy to do. A weathering technique that really yields very nice results. So enjoy the footage without audio. We'll throw some music or something in for you. All right, I like the way that looks. That looks good. There we go. Now we have our washes done. I'm very happy with it. It's extremely dirty and extremely grungy. I don't normally go and don't normally have to go this heavy, but using these weathering techniques and taking them all the way to their extreme is kind of good because it gives you a chance, or gives me a chance, to do all the different techniques. There are areas that I weathered lightly, and there's areas that are very heavily weathered. But that is done, and I'm really happy with the results. Up next, we will be making a new visor, putting tint on the visor, installing the visor, and installing the rest of these pieces, so we'll have a finished helmet. So join us next time for that.